You initiated it in 2006, primarily to help students, underprivileged students, to pursue their education. Could you start off by telling us a little bit about the inspiration behind the project?
Sure. First of all, thank you for the opportunity. I'm really glad to be here. There were a few reasons behind the birth of Educate Lanka and the inspiration. But I think the watershed moment for the idea of setting up Educate Lanka was the tsunami of 2004. I was in my undergraduate studies at that time, a senior, when we heard the news, and at that time I got together with my roommate, Sri Lankan roommate Rashan Naminta, and we thought that we needed to do more than just going door to door and collecting donations to help the victims. So two of us decided that let us work with the community here in the Washington D.C. and started to do hold some fundraisers and get the community together and do something significant. So that idea turned into a series of fundraisers. Ended up raising about $20,000 and donating into a rebuilding of a village in Trincomalee, and that really brought the community together, especially the younger ones here, the Sri Lankan younger generation here in Washington D.C. And a couple of years later, we really was motivated and inspired by the experience of giving back to help the victims, and we want to do something more. During that time, we've been receiving requests from different students on a sporadic basis through our parents from Sri Lanka requesting for help, scholarships, one-time scholarships for them to attend university or attend schools or afford educational expenses. So we were gladly helping them, but then we realized there are thousands of other students who deserve this help. And then we realized that there are actually hundreds and thousands of more people like us who have been privileged enough to achieve higher education and come to a developed country, who can easily afford to help these students achieve their dreams. So that's when we said that let's get together and for in an organized way and create a platform where people like us from around the world who can help these students, and that was the birth of Educate Lanka.
Okay. So, your organization, you're mainly sort of targeting diaspora capital. So, over the past 6 years, how effective has that been? What are the organizations or individuals that tend to support this project more?
Yeah, actually, our model was based on a peer-to-peer lending platform, which is sort of person to person. We've realized that a lot of people wanted to help individually with these students and also wanted to follow their progress and really see what sort of an impact they make on these lives. So that with that idea, we created an unique online platform with the help of one of our co-founders, Hasika Pamunua, who created this website where we can connect the students with sponsors from around the world in any part of the world who can choose the student that we have on our website and sort of fund their education on a long-term basis.
So the project is now has sort of spread out to has it spread out to the north and east as well?
Yeah, actually, we've had a few students from the north and the east, especially in the east during and even before the war started and ended. But now that the war has settled down, we are very much focused in expanding. In fact, last summer I did a personal visit to all of East and the North to identify schools and liaisons, community leaders who could sort of facilitate the and round up the scholarships and the applications and students from those areas, so we could expand our reach to more significantly into those areas. Things have been a little bit slow, mainly due to the instability in those areas, as well as the lack of people who have been established enough to sort of play that role for us.
Okay, so you mentioned some of the instability that sort of means prevent you from even sort of playing even a greater role in those areas. So could you kind of elaborate on the specific challenges you as a sort of a funding or a support organization faces when you try to help these sort of areas?
Normally our liaisons from other parts of the country are more established people, community leaders in those areas who have lived in those areas for a number of years. and will be continuing to live in those areas for the future, so we can be reliable and depend on them to facilitate our process. But in the north and the east, we've realized that some of the people have been moving around, who have been moved back to their communities after the war. So they haven't established themselves properly yet for to play that sort of a role. But it is getting better. We've been going through a lot of different channels and sort of getting and identifying the right people. And we are hopeful that things will move quickly in the future, now that we have gotten a start.
Okay, so the sort of the support that you're giving them now, do you see it fulfilling a sort of long-term role? How do you propose to make it more sort of sustainable and permanent, the help that you're giving them?
Right. Our model actually, as I said, the peer-to-peer connection. What we want to establish is a personal, more personalized relationship between the sponsor and the student, and sort of have a feedback loop so the sponsor knows how the student is progressing, how they are making progress in academic through academic results, and achieve that education that these students deserve. And we've actually seen the results of students who have gone through our program and graduated and found employment and other ways of helping their families sort of come out of poverty. And our the impact has been more than just the individual. It has a ripple effect in their families and the communities itself. Um, so our sustainability comes from that when we identify a student or when sponsor for a student, with the feedback that they receive, they continue to fund their education as long as the student is in school or in following some sort of an education up to higher studies. And as a reminder, our scholarships cover, since education is mostly free in Sri Lanka, the tuition, our scholarships cover the educational expenses such as stationery, transportation, boarding fees, school supplies, etc. That mostly become a barrier and a opportunity cost for the students to continue their studies, and becomes one of the major reasons for them to be dropped out of school.